trying to find, where's that option that you can do that?
It should start automatically if you're on Zoom. It should be, you should see the recording.
Yeah, no, I'm at the Facebook option.
Are you on a Sterling?
What's that?
Are you on a pad, an iPad?
No, I'm not. I'm on a Pro, a MacBook Pro.
Let's see. That I don't know.
Is that the issue?
No. If you're on a pad, it would be harder to put onto Facebook. But
maybe Ramon can help. Here comes Ramon.
Yeah, here comes Ramon.
Here comes Ramon. There he is.
There he is.
All right, Ramon, man, what's the option on that I can go to Facebook Live?
Dude, so are you the host?
I am now.
Okay, so there should be at the bottom of your screen on the little black bar when you hover over it, there should be 3 little dots. You see 3 dots?
No.
Is this the, you guys have the paid version?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have it, Dan, on your end?
Hang on, I've got the 3 dots.
When you click on the 3 dots, is there something that says live to Facebook?
No, not.
Really?
Sterling's got to find his 3 dots.
Can't find my 3 dots.
Oh, permission for the 3 dots here. Yeah, man. Every time that I run a meeting, there's 3 dots in the lower right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different version or something.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, team. We're gonna start in a second.
I've got the 3 dots, but it just gives me mute audio, stop chat, pin video, spotlight video, make host, remove, rename, put in.
I'm gonna log out of this meeting really quick, and I'm gonna go check my Zoom and see if I got a better answer for you, man. I'll be right back.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So we're
Can we make a start, Sterling?
yeah,
So,
let's go ahead. Yeah,
I don't
go
like
ahead.
to keep my audience waiting.
No, I completely understand. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, writing.
Okay, welcome everyone.
Right,
Dan,
right.
you want to get us started today on today's marvelous video.
Okay, so are we ready to go?
Yep, go ahead.
Wonderful. Welcome everyone to this evening's Art of Winning Zoom meeting. I want to talk to you today because these are quite dark times. I know we're coming out of it, but it's not been a great month, and for that reason, I want to shine a ray of light and talk about losing. Okay, so losing is never discussed really in the right way, in our opinion. And I think the reason for that is, well, it's a difficult subject to approach, but I also think that we are kind of emotionally attached to the outcome of a match in a way that distorts our perception. And if you've been on calls with us in the last 2 weeks, you'll remember, I hope you remember, the famous principle number 10, the art of winning principle number 10, that perception is distorted by the emotional response to a situation based on beliefs. And this applies really kind of strictly to losing. So perception is distorted by the emotional response to a situation based on current beliefs. And this distortion of perception, our perspective when we lose becomes distorted. And what we tend to do is really exaggerate or grossly exaggerate the extent to which we've just been beaten if we've lost. And look, here's my main principle. Here's my main thing about losing. That you've never lost, even if you've lost really badly, you've never lost as badly as you think you have. So, for example, if you've lost a tennis match, it's most likely that you've lost 55% of the points, but won 45% of the points. That's the most likely outcome. And that's from the 2,500 that the Art of Winning and Sterling has studied, the 2,500 matches. So the most likely outcome was 55%, 45. I think, and look, you can come back on me on this and say, Dan, no, you're talking nonsense. It's a very different state of affairs. But I think when we lose, it feels more like 80-20. In other words, it feels like that we've only won 20% of the points and our opponent has won 80. That's the distortion of perception. And look, that's not just me, Dan, pulling out figures out of the air there. Sterling, I know, and I hope Ramon would back me up on this, that if you ask people how, what was the extent of their loss, they will say that, I hardly won any points, because that's what it feels like, doesn't it? When you lose, I mean, the place, isn't it? You are emotionally all over the place. Your perspective is really distorted. And look, if you think that you've only won 20% of the points, then your judgment about that match and what you do moving forward is going to be severely impeded. You're not going to be able to progress if your perception is that distorted. So I'd like to throw that one out to people in a minute after I've made my even more interesting second point. But think about that. Think about the way that we distort the match, because it's really, I think, a barrier to progress. So the question again is, do we lose as badly as we think we have? My second point moves away from that perception into a kind of judgment mode about character, and it's the second principle, the 12th principle of the Art of Winning, which says you've got to embrace uncertainty. And I think this is the biggest problem and the reason why people don't compete in the way that they should. But the biggest barriers to getting more people into tennis matches and competition, I think, is this inability to deal with the uncertainty. And we look at it now. Look at what's happening right now in the economy, in society. Right, we're not able to handle uncertainty. We can't do it. Some of us can, but I think it's a really important point that the ability to handle uncertainty is exactly what competition is about. And you can see all these discussions that are happening at the moment about, the business community.
Poslušam en webinar zraven, veš?
Bitte? We have a problem, I think, with uncertainty, and in the business community, they're always talking about, we need more certainty, right? Now, I'm going to put this to you. You cannot win anything where the outcome is certain, right? You can't. That certainty, right? Uncertainty is basically the kind of the crucible of success, right? Uncertainty is where you win, where you're successful, and I think avoiding it is a real problem. And I'm gonna say this: I think the biggest loser is the person who doesn't compete when they could, not the person who's just lost a match. Okay? And I think we like to kind of look at losing as just, oh, you got one winner or one loser. But we very rarely look at the the real losers in competition are the ones that don't compete. I know that's pushing it out there a little bit, and I'd love to hear your opinions about that. So Sterling, do you have anything to add to those two?
Excuse me. Yeah, so I think it's interesting when we talk about losing. A lot of times when people feel like they lose, there is a misperception of actually how much they lost by. Like you said, they tend to the losing is responded to first through the emotions instead of reason or thinking through reasonably what happened, right? And so, you know, you lose to an opponent that you knew was maybe better than you, right? So then you'll make excuses like, well, they were just better than me and I really never had a chance anyway, right? Or if we lose to a player that's we feel like is their level of play is inferior to us, or we're just better than they are, and we lose to them, well, it was their lucky day, or I just didn't have a good day myself. I didn't play up to my potential. And so we tend to just respond really emotionally to it. And we tend not to reflect on the actual percentage of points we actually won versus we lost. And so the idea that, if you think about the tennis score, most games go to a 30-all score. Most of the games you play go to 30-all, which means that at that point, you're going to win or lose the game by a margin of 2 points in a row. Okay? So when we reflect on how little margin there is, or the small margin as far as winning and losing is concerned, then we can start to really honestly assess what were the contributing factors that maybe built up that caused us to lose the match. And if we look at it closely, we're going to see that, oh, well, I missed too many returns, or I missed too many first shot after the serve, too many S1s. And so we start to look at the data to help us bring some reality or reality check to why we actually lost. So I think that's an interesting road that we can go down. The idea of the biggest loser being the person that doesn't compete, I think is so true. When you hear that, it almost slaps you in the face if you've ever given up in a match. I mean, it certainly has slapped me in the face, because I can remember times that I kind of gave up and didn't give 100% all the way to the end. I mean, there's several reasons why people get dejected and give up, but the idea of that's what competition's all about. It's more of a character revealer than anything else. And it's hard sometimes to face yourself and to realize that, it was because that maybe I gave up too soon, or I gave in too quickly. And so I think that goes back to the first point, which is a lot of players and even some coaches don't realize that the margins are so small, and it happens typically, those margins are at the beginning of the point and not found in these long absorbent rallies that we sometimes really focus on, because we remember those because they're long, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I know we can delve into it a little bit more. I'd love to hear what other people are thinking, and maybe some questions about what we brought up so far.
Do you think there's a general a way that players have this? They call it a recency bias, right? Like if they lost the last game or they lost the last point of the match, and they played an unbelievable match, it was a great match for them, that because they lost that last point, they just kind of throw everything into that bucket of, oh, I played a terrible match, and vice versa. They may have played a terrible first, 5 games and then finally got their stuff together. And because they won, they have this sense to say everything about that match was great. I battled through it. Is that something that happens?
Of
Yeah.
course it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how we compartmentalize it in our brain. We'll start off, not playing very well, or maybe we say to ourselves we didn't play very well, but really it was the other player that was just kicking our butt, and we don't want to admit that we were getting our butt kicked, right? We'd rather say, oh, my forehand wasn't working or my backhand wasn't working. This is the most common excuse I see among junior players, is they don't give credit where credit is due. And that can be a very dangerous thing as far as winning long term, because you don't want to give your opponent too much respect, but you do want to respect them nevertheless. And you want to, I mean, how many times do you see junior players when they lose the point because a winner was hit on them, and they actually are coming down hard on themselves instead of giving a racket clap, saying, hey, that was a good shot. They don't have to say anything.
Oh, nah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, right? It happens more where the player's blaming themselves because they got a winner hit on them, right? And so it's an attitude adjustment, like you said. So agreed. Like, we're very hard on ourselves. We're much harder on ourselves than maybe even our opponent is, as far as their perspective. So, and Dan and I, we've done these tests where we ask the player on a scale from 1 to 10, how did you play? And the player will always rate themselves at least 2 points lower than their opponent and even spectators, right? So your opponent will, if you think you're playing at a 6 out of 10 level, your opponent's going to say you're playing at an 8. And so that's the idea of that overrating, and then we underrate ourselves, right? So that certainly plays into the interpretation of how we won and how we lost the match. I'm gonna make sure everybody's unmuted here so we can jump in.
Ryan's got a question, darling. Can you see that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll read it again.
There it is.
I often feel I did the opposite to losing more than I did. I feel maybe I won more than I did. 1 more points, I mean. Is this also is this an exception to, I guess, it's kind of the opposite to what Dan was saying.
Yeah, I often feel I did the opposite to losing more points than I did.
I feel like I did better in the match than the result.
Oh, right. So that is right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that is a mechanism. I think that's a survival mechanism, honestly. I mean, I think I mean, I heard my wife say this a lot when she played D1 tennis is, wow, that shot felt good, but it went in the net. So even though it felt good, just because something feels good, and well, what's the reality? You lost the point. You hit it in the net. I mean, that's that practice court, hitting a lot of balls in your strike zone on the practice court make you feel really good. But that we know that doesn't transfer to winning matches. So we know that 75% of the time you play a match, you're not even hitting a ball. You're in between points, in between shots, on changeovers. So most of the time on a match court, you have to deal with what you're thinking about, right? And then whatever you're thinking about controls what you're feeling. Okay? So it's your thoughts that control your emotions. Okay? So how you interpret the way you played, you may feel good about yourself, but you still walked off the court and there's a loss. So the other thing is you said I feel I maybe won more than I did, but it's still a perception. Okay. Yeah. So I feel I maybe won more than I did. So how would explain that one, Ryan?
He's
I feel
Australian.
like yeah, who knows? I feel that I'm closer in the match,
Okay.
and it's about, I guess, the mini battle.
Yeah, no, to me that would be a more accurate way to describe what happens. Look, competition is difficult. It's the hardest thing you'll ever deal with. Life is filled with competition, and especially on a match court, competition is tough, right? So if you go in with an understanding that you don't have to win every single point, right? You just need to win more points in a row than your opponent. Okay. So one of the things that I'm revising on the tennis mat play out that I came out with is at the end of the match, it's going to show how many 2 points in a row that you won. We call those momentum points. So if you win 2 points in a row, I call it one momentum point. And if you win 3 points in a row, I call it a conversion point. So it's going to tell you how many momentum points did you win in the set or match, and how many momentum points did you lose. That means your opponent won 2 points in a row versus you won 2 points in a row. That's a very interesting statistic, because you realize that the person that was able to maintain their concentration and focus 2 points in a row, or maybe they lost it, or there was some dynamics going on with patterns and things like that. But that's a critical statistic to measure the reality of what happened in the match. And so, go on the practice court. How do you train to win 2 points in a row? Right? Because there's a lot to that can be unpacked.
Sterling.
Yes.
I'll throw this out there, and maybe I'm in a different place than others that are on the call.
Sure.
But I don't look at, when we talk about winning and losing with my players, and even with my two sons who are top national players, winning and losing we talk about in life. On the tennis court, we talk about momentum. It's all about your attitude, your preparation, your effort, and it's your momentum. And I go back to Chuck Creasy and the conversions, because when he was at Clemson, it was, if you can win 3 points in a row, you get a conversion. If you want to try to keep your opponent from winning 3 in a row, how do you stop them from gaining the momentum? Yep. And how do you gain the momentum? It's by winning 3 points in a row. So it's all about keeping the momentum on your side. And that way, when they have a little bit of a lull, and say they lose a couple games in a row or something, when you talk to them about changing the momentum and say it only takes you 3 points in a row to change the momentum of this match, how can you do that? Then if they're down 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, they're not thinking about the score. They're thinking about changing the momentum at that point in time where they are. You see my kids behind me, and these guys are city kids. For them to survive and go on to college is winning in life.
That's right.
Okay? Tennis is not their top priority, but tennis has taught them a lot about fighting and staying in a battle and competing. That helps them go out later.
Right.
So I don't know. I think I'm not dealing with an academy full of nationally ranked players.
Well, let me say this real quick. Let me say this real quick, Dan. So you're exactly right. The way to talk about winning and losing is what results in winning and losing, and it is momentum. It is gaining the momentum and capturing the momentum, right? So in that case, that's exactly what we're saying is, obviously everyone wants to win and no one wants to lose. Okay. And but there are instances where people avoid winning because they don't want to deal with the responsibility that comes with winning. Okay. And then some people will, you know, so there can be some sabotage, right, in winning. But in the case of losing, you know, losing is a result of not being able to capture the momentum and then somehow recapture it when you lose it, and then the attempt to sustain it, which is the hardest one of the three. The hardest one of the three is to sustain momentum, right? We can capture it and we can lose it, and that's the mini battle, right? So, but you know, I think that's one of the things about tennis that relates to life is, you know, when you're on the tennis court, you're by yourself, and you've got to figure it out by yourself, and you know, that's the way it is in life a lot of times. I mean, we do have help, obviously, from external people, people outside ourselves. But the circumstance of being in that competition, right, is what produces that, you know, attitude towards winning and losing. Dan.
Yeah, thank you. If you were to take a match, actually look at what happened behind all those distortions, behind all those emotional and thought distortions, you would actually see something quite different. And what you would see is how close it was in terms of those conversions that Delaney was talking about. Right, it really was. It really would be close. I mean, Sterling, you know this better than anyone else. And I'll tell you what, the app, right, when it does this, it's pretty good at the moment. But when it is able to track momentum, it's going to be, wow, it's just going to be awesome. And what the match would tell you is that you were fairly close in the amount of conversions against your opponent. It was a close run thing, because that's what we were talking about yesterday, wasn't it? It's this goddamn scoring system in tennis, which is beautiful in one way, but absolutely, oh man, it's crushing. It just gives you the idea that if you lost 6-love, I guarantee you, even under those circumstances, there would have been at least 3 or 4 mini battles in that love and love where the conversion points were gained. Yeah. And you know, if you go on the goddamn scoring system, which is actually what it's representative, but it's not real. All right. Odd kind of scoring system. But it's representative of what happened, of what happens. So again, if you take the lid off a match, you're going to go in there, and this is what I get my players to do, and they won't have any of it. They won't believe. They go, Dan, no, I lost because I'm rubbish, or I lost because can anyone chime in now and say, what do you think the number one excuse is? I'm going to go to Ramon. What's the reason why they lost?
I got to go with my backhand broke down. That's the one that I hear the most.
It was a technical problem.
Yeah.
The reason I lost. Yeah. I've got the top 10. Sterling knows that. He's seen my list. The other one, my favourite reason why people say they lost. My opponent was so bad that it put me off. Right? That is honestly, you get a variation on that. Yeah. Honestly, my opponent's backhand was so loopy. Yeah. Or all he did was this, or he sliced it. That was why I lost. It wasn't my fault. I've got really nice shots. My point being, our perception is different from actually what happened, and it's going to be really interesting. Well, we're kind of doing it on paper at the moment, but man, when that app does that, you're going to have truth on your side. You're going to be able to say to people, look, it was close.
Hey Dan, what's the app called?
Don't ask me that, Ryan.
It's called, if you go on the App Store now, it's under Tennis Map. It's actually called Tennis Map Play. So we're doing some adjustments with, but if you go on, it's It's only on for the Apple for the iPhone right now. Once we get the final version done and launch, we're going to start working on the Android and get that out. But yeah, it's Tennis Map. One of the things that came up on the chat is, do you love to win and do you love to compete? I mean, is there anybody here that can say that players don't love to win? I'm not sure about the second one. Do you love to compete?
Shirley, can we bring Indu in here? Because
Yeah.
I told her earlier, she's got a really interesting point about what you guys in America don't get is what it's like in the UK. You got this in America, right? You're going into your leagues and you compete, right? It's not problematic for you. Indu's going to tell you what actually happens in London.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Right. Hi. So I was just speaking with Dan earlier, and I've always said this from day one. In Britain, unfortunately, at the moment, because the numbers have been so low in participation, the Lawn Tennis Association across the board, everywhere, not just London, across the UK, focus on participation levels. People just taking part in the sport now. So when you travel across even recreational parks, tennis coaching in parks, etc., you're standing next to 5 coaches, 2 coaches in any of those areas. You will never ever hear a coach putting a kid forward to go play tournaments or to be a register of the LTA so they can go play tournaments by registering as have a rating, and even educating the parents. So you'll find a lot of people are spending a lot of money, range it from say £30 an hour to £60 an hour for a tennis lesson every single week. But out of, if a coach is training say 20 kids a week, it's probably 1 in 1,000 that are probably playing matches out there. So there's not enough tournament-based, match play-based anything there for people to think, oh, we can go and play tournaments and play points. It is very low in terms of having that winning motion, what you're wanting. Kids are out there who want to play matches, who want to play points, but there's not enough education for coaches to give, well, coaches that aren't giving it, shall we say.
So we've got massive competition aversion in the UK. And that's a disease. It infects everything that you do. I mean, I've told this to Sterling, and Sterling goes, "What, are you crazy?" Seriously. I mean, look, I think there's so much competition anxiety in the UK. You could do a case study on it, right? And at the individual level, if you're not competing, you're not going to be able to deal with the uncertainty and the anxiety that competition brings.
Yeah,
so
we have, like, on a Friday, for example, where I was working before last year, we had about 16 kids. Out of those 16 kids on a court, we had probably 2 out of the 16 actually playing tournaments, who are playing for their ratings and playing actual proper tournaments across the country. But the other 16 kids probably can play matches and go out and play, but it's not encouraged, because the kids are then supervised by nannies 24/7, that you hardly see their parents come into the courts. So there's no education. So any coaching courses, what people are applying for, there's no follow-up format to say, oh, by the way, if your kid wants to play matches, click on this site for further information, contact the person. There's none of that in a link of a website for a parent to even click on, or to say if you want to become a member of the LTA and enter tournaments, or etc. There's nothing.
So that's really what's really strikes me about, and when Dan first mentioned this to me last year, and we've talked extensively about this, when he told me about this, I was quite shocked. I was taken back, because I thought to myself, well, if you're not, I mean, tennis is a sport, and sports were created for competition.
Yep.
And if there's no competing, you're not really playing a sport. If you're not keeping score, then what do we call it? Because we can't call it tennis anymore.
They call it recreational tennis here, Sterling. That's what they call it here.
Right, but it's not even tennis.
No.
It's recreational, hit a ball over the net
Yep.
and send it back. So that's number one. But my biggest question is this, how are we supposed to build character if there's never a struggle? Like, people all, and then I know that there's a worldwide sentiment out there that we should avoid suffering. But I think we fail to understand what that word actually means. The word suffer, if you look it up, it actually means to endure. And, the pain that is associated with suffering, for some, the pain is not pain at all. It's actually gain. Oh, we have that saying, no pain, no gain, right? So competitors, they see pain as a part of the process of enduring and developing character and integrity, right? If you're never challenged, if you're never put in a situation where you feel awkward or out of sorts, then you'll never have the opportunity to actually mature as a human being. And so to
You're
me,
not giving yourself an opportunity.
I'm sorry?
You're not giving yourself an opportunity, like you're saying. So
Yes.
it's not, the opportunities are there. So it's not like they're not there. It's the person has to take the opportunity.
Yep.
It is there to take.
Yep. So my biggest question is, who decided that competition would actually deter people from playing tennis? Because it sounds like to me that someone made a determination that if we don't keep score and we just offer participation, that automatically equals people coming into the sport. I think it's more of, like you said, it's more of a lack of education from the coaching society, if you will, of actually educating people about what competition really can bring an individual. Okay? Because, I'll just leave it at that. I love to hear other people's.
I think Indu's point's great, and somebody else just popped up and said Australia, but it happens here in the U.S. It's all about giving participation trophies and participation certificates to this young group that's coming up because they feel good about themselves, and we want them to be active, and they're not getting PE anymore. They're not getting free play anymore. They're, so it's all been focused on, let's just bring everybody in and have them have a good time. There don't need to be winners and losers. But like you were saying, you kind of rob them from learning how to deal with life if there's no outcome to the effort they're putting in for the day, or learning to deal with, obstacles as they pop up, and just learning how to be friends when you walk off the court. Play your buddy today a set and go play basketball afterwards. Shake hands and, you're still friends.
There's one thing I want to bring up. If you leave a group of 6-year-olds on a playground and you sit back and watch a bunch of 6-year-olds from any society on the planet, whether you're from Australia, China, US, wherever, Scandinavia, you'll see those 6-year-olds start competing. They will figure out a game, a way to compete against each other. They will find a way where there will be winners and losers amongst the group, right? And the reason why is it's in us innately to grow, to mature. It's not in our DNA to just sort of coast along in life. We're created to have this conflict to come out so that we can be better today than we can be tomorrow. Or at least we measure, that's how we measure things, right? And so to deny someone competition and to deny them actually the experience of losing is to actually set back or go in be contradictory to what's actually inside them, right? Because we know this to be a fact of life. Unless there is fire, there is never purification, right? So if you never have trials in your life, if you never have fire, if you will, in your life, you'll never be at that point where you actually like grow and become something that you probably didn't even know you could become. And so to me, this is a very dangerous precedent to go down. It's a very dangerous path to go down to try to eliminate suffering and competition because we're going against the very thing that causes us to be mature in life. And so when we get older, if we do this to our kids, when the kids get older and the real life punches them in the face. I used to say this all the time to my private school, high school teams that I coached for 12 years. I'm like, you kids live in a bubble. And when you get out of this school, life is going to punch you in the face and you're not going to know how to deal with it because everything's been coddled for you. And I have those same kids. I get calls all the time. Coach Sterling, thank you for telling me the truth. Because now that I'm in the real life, everything you said is coming to pass. Right? So now they're dealing with these things that I told them they were going to have to deal with. And because I said that to them, it triggered that thought in their mind. And so I think that's why, one of the reasons why Dan and I started this project, and we called it the art of winning, because it is an art. There's an art to winning. There's learning how to win. There's learning how to deal of the fact that you lose, and you will lose. But how do you deal with that? How do you turn it around? How do you capture more momentum, right?
Sterling, can I come in with my
Yeah, go for it.
But the phrase. Okay, I picked up this nice phrase. I'm sure some of you have heard it already, and it's like when a child loses a match, they lose 3 times, right? So once on the court in the match, once on the way home in the car, and once having to explain to their other parent and coach why they've wasted their parents and coaches' money and time by losing. Okay, so that's the three times that the child loses. I tell you what I do like, and I get on with most of my tennis parents, and it's fine. But I do like to just note down sometimes what parents say to their children when they've won or lost, particularly when they've lost, because it makes me laugh. Okay, and I'm a parent. I'm going to go through this in a few years. He's only 2 at the moment, so I've got another year. But he says, sorry, parents say, and this is my favourite, why don't you try harder after the child's lost? Okay, and I love that one. It's because it's insane to me. Why would you say that to someone on a court as your analysis? But I think also, and I don't know, Sam might back me up on this. I know Indu would. If you get a player or a parent saying, the child needs to try harder. I think actually what's happening is the child doesn't know, or the person doesn't know how to compete. They don't know what to do. So if they don't know what to do, it looks really like they're not trying. And it's not that they're not trying, it's just they don't know. Well, I teach chess quite a lot, and I play. And at one point, I don't know what to do in a match. Right? I've trained, the situation, but there are moves I could make, but I don't know about them. Okay, I just don't know, and it looks like I'm not trying, or I'm procrastinating, or it's like, or whatever. And I'd like to know if anyone has similar experiences to me. I'm sure some of you, about what parents say. Sam, is that what you get?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some juniors who I coach, and the parents won't let them compete because the parents' anxiety is so high that if their child fails, then they feel as though they've put them into a situation which they couldn't control. So
that's one of my favourite moments ever.
And very much the sporting syndrome we've got here at the moment is, everyone's a winner, everyone gets a sticker, everyone gets a medal, everyone gets a certificate, whether it's sports day or anything. And I'm very much the old school version of, actually, no, it's not. There are winners and there are losers, and what you put in is what you get back out of it. And a number of times I coach in 10 different schools a week as part of my job, and I've asked children numerous times, what are your aims from tennis? Oh, it's to have fun, coach. It doesn't matter about the competing, it's the taking part that counts. And I'm sat there going, no, I'm sorry, no. And they're going, well, you can't say that to them. And I'm going, well, I can, and I have. And I think for me, I've got my eldest daughter plays quite a high standard of tennis, and she has done, and she's done the highs and lows, and she's now on another going up, and she'll dip again and everything else. But it's, for me, I find it very frustrating that parents don't want to put their children in that situation. When the children are put in that situation and they lose, which they're probably going to do on their first time out because it is a whole new environment, then it's like, well, I don't want them going through that again. I don't want them going through that anxiety. I don't want them going through that upset. I don't want the tears. I don't want the tantrums. And I'm like, why are you here? So, but, I'm kind of in three phases. I'm a tennis mum, I'm a coach, but I'm also a referee. And as a referee, the arguments I have with our LTA on trying to organise tournaments and matches is just, well, there's not enough children competing. No, there's not enough children competing because there's no tournaments to compete. So I'm offering to run these tournaments. I'm getting told, no, because you haven't got the statistics in order to run them, because there's not enough children in your area that are competing, and we're not going to do it. And it's just a vicious circle at the moment. Completely.
Sorry, can I add to that, Sam? I don't want to turn it into a series of anecdotes from the UK about how bad this situation is, but it is quite comical. I got called into the headmaster's, so the principal's office once, because I was running an infant school tennis program, the Tennis Tigers. They called me in and he said, look, we've had a complaint from the parents, because the complaint was that I had been telling the kids that it isn't, the most important thing wasn't just to take part. And I told them that the most important thing wasn't to have fun. And this goes against the school's ethos, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? You wouldn't get away with that in Stalin's Russia, right? He would have. It was gobsmacked. So it was like 1984, where the kids grasped me up because they've been told repeatedly, again and again, that it's taking part that counts.
Yeah.
They actually tried to ban. They actually tried to ban us doing winning and losing, doing competition for that, and playing points. Weren't allowed to do it. They tried to.
Crazy. Yeah.
So I've got a question. If we're, obviously we don't want to be giving our kids saying, hey, why didn't you try harder? But, in a perfect situation, say your kid comes off the court and he lost, he choked or whatever, what would be a very constructive way to kind of, either build them back up, or how would you have that conversation?
You know what? I have to say something because you read my mind. One of the best things, I'm kind of in the same position Sam was in, except my kids are now grown. So I've been through the training, the traveling, all that stuff with my kids. And Billie Jean gave me the best piece of advice that I could have ever asked for as a parent. And I share it with my parents all the time. Anytime a player plays a match, don't ever be the first person to say something. Let the player always be the first person to say something, because that will give you the opportunity to find out where they're coming from. Are they feeling like Ryan and they felt like they were right there the whole time, even though the score was 6-0, 6-0? Or were they not even there saying, hey, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I don't feel good, I want to go home, can we get something to eat? That at least tells you where their mindset is before you jump right in and decide to tell them everything that they've already done wrong, or that they didn't do, or you didn't see the effort, or you didn't see the whatever. And I'll tell you what, it saved our house. It saved our household, because I was right there with the stats, charting everything, and he'd come off the court and I'd hand him the book and I'd say, okay, see, here's what you did. You got your first serve percentage, whatever. And he'd be like, Mom, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I want to go get something to eat. And Billy, I live by it every day. When my players that I coach come off, I find out where they are before I jump in and start saying something.
So I want to kind of wrap up the session today with a story. This is a personal story. It goes right to the heart of Ramon's question. So I have a 12-year-old son. He's my youngest, and he's actually the one that caught on to tennis and competition, and it's probably because he's been on the court with me since he was 2. But he played in a tournament about a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago. And he got to the finals, and he lost. And I knew exactly what happened because I watched the whole match. I knew exactly when he checked out. Okay? Very close first set, and about really the first game of the second set, by the end of the second game, he was done. He had totally checked out. So he loses in the finals. He gets a nice big second place trophy, and the first place trophy was just twice as big. And so we're walking to the car, and he's just crying. He's just crying. And I go, what's up, buddy? And he says, Dad, he goes, I wanted that big trophy. I had my eye on it. This is the one I wanted to win. I just didn't, I just wanted that trophy. And I looked straight at this 12-year-old kid, and I said, no, you didn't. He goes, yeah, I did, Dad. I wanted it. I go, no, you didn't want it bad enough. And he kind of stopped crying, and he goes, well, what do you mean? What do you mean, Dad, I didn't want it? I go, you didn't want it. He goes, I said, when did you give up? And he kind of looked at me funny, and he goes, I didn't give up. I go, yeah, you did. So when was it? And he literally looked at me. He goes, Dad, it's the second game of the second set. He knew exactly when he gave up. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, first of all, I said, you need to be grateful at this moment, because there were 30 some other kids and they're not holding that trophy that you're holding in your hand. There's 30 some kids that they didn't get to the finals. So number one, you need to be grateful for what you have accomplished and what you were able to do in the tournament. Get to the finals, get that opportunity to compete for that big trophy that you say you wanted. I said, the second thing is you need to be honest with yourself about how much did you give? Did you really give it all? Did you lay it all out there? Did you fight to the very last point? And he was like, no, I didn't. You're right. I didn't. I really didn't want it. You're right. But I'm going to be grateful for this. So we trained for about another 4 weeks, didn't say anything about it. He goes into his next tournament. He gets to the finals again. He loses again. He comes off the court. He's not crying at all. And he goes, and I didn't say a word. And he said, Dad, he goes, you know what? He goes, I didn't play this tournament because of this trophy I just got. I played this tournament because my objective was to go into every single match and never give up and fight to the very end. And it didn't matter. He goes, I wanted to win every match, and that was my goal. But my attitude was I'm going to fight till the very end. And I thought, this is the lesson that we need to give to our young people, that it is about dealing with the struggle and about pushing through, even when we think it's dark, and even when we think in our mind we don't have what it takes, to get out there and to give it everything we have. And so to me, this is the message of competition. That if we spread this message that it's healthy and it's something that's going to help you grow and mature as a person.
That's a very nice story, Sterling.
Yeah.
Great story.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate everyone coming on today. I really hope that you got something out of today, and I hope that it spurred on a lot of thought about winning and losing from yesterday to today. If you didn't get a chance to see yesterday, Dan has your email. He can send you out the link. I'm going to get that up very soon, and we're gonna meet again, and you'll probably get an email about what we may continue this. We may go in a little bit different direction, but that's where we are now.
And if there's anything that people do want to talk about, get in touch with me. You all got my email. Okay, tell me that if there's a specific topic that you would like us to deal with, and hopefully we'll be here tomorrow.
Yep.
Dan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
When I send you an email, my mail always gets rejected by your inbox.
It means you're not a very nice person.
Of course, you got to learn to deal with losing.
Yeah,
Come
got
on.
to learn to deal with rejection. It's the next stage. It's the next step.
We got to figure that out.
Right. Okay. Can you? I'll get in touch with you in a minute.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.